Hello there. Welcome today to Employment Ahead, Giving You Space to Lead. My name is Wendy Parent-Johnson, and I am the Executive Director of the Sonoran Center for Excellence in Disabilities at the University of Arizona in Tucson. We have another speaker, Richard Parent-Johnson, who will be talking later and will introduce himself at that time. So let's talk about today and also this series. So we're going to begin discussion of a three-part series that builds on the book, Planning the Transition to Employment, that we wrote earlier. We're going to talk today about things we can do to prepare people for employment. The next webinar will be about collaborative relationships to move towards employment together. And then the last one will be focused on employment outcomes and how we can actually have employment happen for students as they leave school. So why are we doing this? Let's get started and let's hear from a couple students who will share their experiences with working while in school.
My name is Caitlin Gonzalez and I go to Intermountain Academy School.
I am Billy Williams. I also go to Intermountain Academy School.
What have you enjoyed the most about working at Pima Animal Care Center?
I would say working with the dogs and doing dishes and laundry, and at least working with cats once.
I guess just being here in general, because it's quite refreshing to be with the animals.
What about this experience has taught you about employment?
It helps me, you learn to communicate and meet with people who I work with, and so that way I could accomplish something together and maybe even get assistance for for a task that might be a bit tricky for me.
Yes. Well, it helps me get ready for the real world, so I can have experience later on in life.
What do you both feel more confident about?
I guess the communication, knowing the tasks at hand,
And helping out each other.
Okay, so what do we know is important about students leaving school? And that is that work experiences while they're in school leads to better employment outcomes after they graduate. When students get the opportunity to practice, to try out, to work in real environments, then they learn the expectations, the requirements, and the skills to be able to participate. And also self-determination skills. Those students who demonstrate self-advocacy, goal-setting, choice-making, decision-making, they have better outcomes across the board in all domains of life after leaving school. So when we begin our program, so as schools start thinking about their vocational programming and the students that are participating, start with the end in mind. What is that goal that you want them to achieve? Employment, post-secondary education. And this is the time to explore those possibilities, to create opportunities to learn and to practice so that students gain those skills to prepare them. This is not the time to determine what you think somebody can do based upon disability labels or low expectations. Open the opportunities up for everyone and have all students be able to participate towards those post-school goals. So as the schools start thinking about providing work experiences and our work together with schools to help them build their capacity to be able to provide more community-based work opportunities for students, there are many challenges that people have experienced or decision-making that they have to plan for. So in thinking about your school and wanting to get started, look at your current opportunities. Are there already some work programs that some students are participating in that you could tap into, expand to include other students? there's some work opportunities on the school site that you could build on, maybe some school-based businesses, and begin there to start getting work into the curriculum and moving forward with students having those experiences. As we all know, that some of the biggest challenges are the logistics. How do you schedule? How do you have the staff capacity to be able to add this into your already busy schedules? One of the things that we found to be really helpful is to have administrative buy-in, have the whole school aware and included within it. So sometimes we hold an orientation, we meet with different individuals, help engage people right from the beginning so that they can be a part of it. Sometimes people aren't aware of vocational rehabilitation. Maybe right now we've been experiencing a lot of staffing issues, turnover, shortages, staff being stretched very thin with the all of the requirements that are placed on them. So looking at how can we adjust the staffing so that individuals can go out and provide those experiences in the business world. Scheduling. Now, what we've had to do with many schools is start small. You know, you don't have to go with the full program all at once. So maybe it's just 1 or 2 students go out. Maybe it's just 1 hour a week to start, but we have a vision and we have a plan. And throughout that school year, we are moving towards that direction so that students expand the number of hours and the number of students that can go out, and also expanding the number of opportunities in a year that a student can participate in. Another strategy that we found helpful is to have maybe 2 students go to the same business, not doing the same work and certainly a distance between them, but being able to have that the 2 students with the 1 staff person. Transportation is always a big challenge, and we've tried to work around that with, we've tapped into businesses very close to the school that students could walk. Sometimes the school has the transportation, but then it's who can drive. We even had one school where the principal drove to be able to get students dropped off to the different sites that they needed to be at. Bringing families in and having maybe a parent night, a resource night, and orientation, sharing information. And one way we found really effective is to have a student orientation. Go to the classroom, talk about work, engage students. So they're the ones going home and saying, I want to do this, and talking to the other students and teachers at the school. Building our relationships with the business community and opening those doors so that we can have the places for students to go to. We've had, businesses very receptive to having students come and really explaining to them that we're not displacing workers, but that we are having individuals come and work side by side with other workers. And as we all know right now, and for many of the last few years, is the COVID complications. Certainly, we've got people doing virtual schooling, again, the staff shortages and the disruptions, and working around that and how we can still incorporate the work experiences within the student's schedule. Another strategy we've used is to find a class, and if the student can leave during that time, and maybe building course credit by them going out onto the job site. And the last piece to really think about as you're building your program is to, how are you going to measure? What are your outcomes? And these are the things that really help engage others to be a part of it. So if you can share outcomes, if you can share stories, successes of the business, of the student, those are the things that people really appreciate. And more that they hear that and see how this benefits everyone, that the program can begin to grow. The other piece is to connect with our adult services. Many of you may already have relationships with some of these, but these are many of the agencies that can be very helpful, either to your program while you're in school or to provide the employment services when the student graduates. So either way, they need to be connected and to be a part. We often hear from schools that Maybe they don't have a real working relationship with vocational rehabilitation. So we always try and help to connect, bring those individuals into the classroom and to the school so that people know. With the Workforce Innovations Opportunity Act, there's a service called pre-employment transition services that are required by state vocational rehab agencies. And this is often a way that schools can benefit from the students going out into those work experiences. Let's see, sorry. And then your community providers that are often the ones that provide employment services. And then your developmental disability agency, they sometimes will assist with employment or with resources or case management kinds of resource sharing. And then your centers for independent living. Our center here has transition services that they provide and teaching self-advocacy skills. Sometimes that's a really underused resource that we forget about that might be something to tap into. So when we think about the work-based learning experiences, we want students to be out in the community and working at real jobs. Here's where they get the chance to learn about work tasks and then other things such as taking breaks and following instructions and asking questions, greeting the public. But not only that, I think what's so important is they start learning what it is that they like. I just talked to a youth this morning and, we are exploring all the different kinds of environments that might vary for the type of work that he wanted to do. And so when we think about hobbies or interests, is that a career? Is that their job? Are there other things that they like to do? And then what environment works best? It varies. The same office can be extremely different if you're in one that's very quiet or one that has 50 people working in it and is very loud. And so looking at those kinds of work culture preferences can help with that job match down the road. So working with the business community, we've had really good luck my whole professional career of getting to know that business, developing the relationship, and working out what opportunities they have available, what is it that you can offer, and how can this work? And we've had businesses that we've gone in for work experiences that have turned into employment. Or vice versa, that we find employment and we open it up for work experience as well. This is just a list of a few of the examples that we have of the diversity of kinds of jobs: a bookstore, a hardware store, a clothing store, the zoo, a grocery store, a bike store, a big fabric warehouse kind of. We just had some new businesses, Outdoors Arizona, lots of fun things related to exploring in the sunshine and mountains here. Treasures for Teachers and Earth Sugar. So, we just go out and start talking. And what we usually use as our starting point is businesses that are in close proximity to that school, so that transportation is not such a big issue. If you only have an hour or an hour and a half to start for a student to go out, you don't want to spend a half hour of that for travel if you can help it. And I want to tell you how important these business relationships are. We have employers that are so supportive and working together. And I'm so impressed with our staff because of creating these very strong relationships. Just very recently, we had a student that had a behavioral issue at work, was very combative and disruptive, but would not let anyone touch them or try and move them to another situation. And this was a public business. And it went on for over an hour and the school came and so that employer is still continuing for that student to be there and has no issues and understands that the staff are, working with that individual to learn alternative ways to express themselves. And that's only because of the relationship that has been established. So when we are working out there with businesses, we have to provide training for students. And I think this is one of the biggest questions comments, I guess, that I get from participating schools, is that, well, they're not doing the job independently, and so they can't do this work. This is the chance to teach them. That's what we're there for. And so we want to provide training, figure out what it takes for them to learn and how we can support them so they're able to complete the job. Then, so for this, there's 2 individuals here. There's a youth female on the left wearing a pink sweatshirt and a mask and leaning up against the clothing racks, working in a store with hanging clothes and stocking. And a young man on the right who has a t-shirt and a yellow mask and sitting at a table that has a piece of paper and with both hands. And that individual is working to make packets for a big manufacturing company to ship the products that people order, kind of like an Amazon, but not Amazon. And when asked about what this individual likes at this job, his response was, I like about Sonoran Stitch because I can put stickers on bags. So we never know what it is that students like. Does that mean he wants a career as putting stickers on bags? Not necessarily, but we learn more about, maybe it's just sitting there, it's the environment, it's the type of task or the feelings of success. So the more we try different places, we get a better sense of what is it that this individual likes and what type of work. So when we do provide training, a task analysis can help us do that. It breaks down the steps. This is an example of one. And I remember when we used to have to do paper and pencil, but the staff have created this fillable one so that they're able to do it using their technology right there and just fill in not only the task, but the dates and the performance, whether the person's the step of what kind of prompting that they need. So this allows us to be able to teach consistently. It also allows us to be able to cross over when we have multiple trainers so that we can teach the same way, as well as to know when the student is learning. We can measure their progress. We can also find areas where maybe there's a challenge that we need to think about another way to do it or a support that might be helpful. So when we are out there providing the training, this is a time to include supports and accommodations. It's not a test that the student can do the job or not. We all use supports. We all use things. What are those things that help this student do this particular job? And when you think about it, it helps them complete tasks. Maybe it helps them do the task better so that their quality is better, their speed is better, that we use something that a piece of technology or a compensatory strategy or a low-tech kind of tool that assists them with performing better. Maybe it allows them to have access to something that maybe they'll have more responsibility. I think being proactive, for example, with that student that had the behavior issues, of putting something in place so that students have those tools for down the road if something stresses them out. If there's a change at the workplace, then how can they approach that? What are the strategies that are effective for them? Communicating with others. This is something that we have one student that felt like the coworkers were not able to understand them as well and wanted to have a speech communication tool to be able to assist them on the job site with communicating more effectively. So it may be something related to actual speech. It may be the tools to be able to communicate. using alternative formats, or just learning how to interact with other people. Maybe there's something that helps people be able to do that. I've got some examples I'll show you here in a minute. Maybe there's a problem, and the solution to that can be implementing something. So if we think of what that is, then let's look at what can we put in the place that may eliminate that problem. And this is the fun part to me, because we can be creative and we can think of things that maybe we use that could be very helpful. It just makes the job easier. Think about Post-it notes. We all use those, and that really is something that supports many of us, including me, who has them stuck all over to remember things. So here's an example of a student who is working at a hardware store, and his task is to straighten and stock the shelves. So this person has a red vest and a black shirt with a yellow mask, with shelves of cleaning supplies that are being straightened and moved forward so there's no gaps in the shelves. So this is an individual performing this task. So let me show you some of the tools that can be helpful. For example, here is a visual guide that for some of the students that are working in that capacity, it's an example. So there's 4 boxes on the left that are words of the steps for product facing, and 4 boxes on the right that are pictures of aisles and shelves to show how the task should be completed. And with arrows, if you notice at the bottom, going left to right on the shelves, we often hear that people might not remember the order that they have to do. So this is a reference point to go back and look, to be able to remember even after the job coach is not there. And then another thing I often hear is that a student can only perform one task, and I'll go, why? And here's a perfect example, taking that same job and showing how it fits into the full work for someone. So in this particular case, we have 10 pictures, and above them, there are tasks written, not the step-by-step of each task like we just showed, but the overall task, so that there is the product facing, but then it's facing cold items, facing drinks, and a picture of dusting the shelves. There's carts, sanitizing carts, and shopping baskets, and sweeping, so that all of the different tasks are listed in order with a picture to be able to follow, to remember the sequencing of tasks. Here's another example of a visual guide. We have 2 columns with 10 boxes each. The left is in words of the steps for Velcro wrapping. On the right is a picture of each step along the way, so that someone has the option of looking at a picture or reading the words to be able to perform that step. And here's one that I was talking before about communication. This is, there are actually 4 boxes here, and each one of these is a little card that is on a ring that a student at the zoo is actually using. And the box on the left, upper left corner has greetings and sayings in case the individual forgets, then they know what they can say. And then there's also pictures of reminders of important things such as the bathroom, wearing your mask, so that the individual remembers to share those things. Another card is the list of tasks to do, and another card of things to say when people are leaving. And the last one is for the individual to kind of rehearse with themselves whenever they're in a different location, of reminding themselves, when I'm here, where might these things be, such as food or the restroom or certain animals, so that they can then be prepared to respond to the questions they receive. So one of the things that we have really been working on is virtual jobs. We have many schools that are on lockdown, other schools that are virtual or hybrid, and then some that are back in person and then maybe go virtual. We, multiple years ago, probably 5 years ago, multi-state project, we had exploring the use of virtual supports, using technology to assist somebody primarily with the follow-along piece of employment, the ongoing support that someone might need or assistance, intermittent assistance. But then with COVID, we've had a lot of individuals that really needed virtual work in order to be able to participate in work experiences. So we've been exploring different ways and have just an incredible program of opportunities for students to be able to participate in virtual work. So when you think about this, there's so many new opportunities within this challenge that we've experienced. And it's the way that businesses are operating now. There's opened up new doors for different jobs being done in a remote setting. So how do students participate so that they're prepared when they graduate to engage in this new economy? So we've been providing some virtual work opportunities for all students, in addition, even if they're able to do in person. But it's also opened up access to some career areas that localities may not have available to students. And so when we look at this, some of the challenges that we've had to work out is people having a computer, access to Wi-Fi, having a camera. So we've gotten hotspots. We have bought cameras for people. We've worked with a school. We've been creative. Sometimes computers have been sent home. Sometimes we've had to work out ways for people to maybe go to the library to access a computer, but we've been able to work out so that that has not been something that has prevented somebody from participating. The interesting thing is the job coaches or our vocational specialists have had to learn job coaching so that you have a three-way Zoom. You've got the supervisor and the business in one place, the student in another, and then themselves in another. And being able to provide training and assistance when everything is remote has been a real learning experience and something that they've very effectively been able to do. Some of the things that students have benefited from learning: how do you talk to your supervisor? If you're used to social media and communicating, what do you do differently when it's a professional communication? How do you ask questions and how do you respond? Those are all things that I think are really important skill sets that we need to make sure students aren't left behind and are learning these in the work environment. One of the things we want to really be careful of is that students aren't in isolation. So just because they're working remotely, we want them to have the same benefits and learning opportunities that they would have if they were in person. So we're working with some of the schools as well to, how do we build those in? If you're working remotely, how do you take break with other remote employees? How do you interact in those casual ways and connect to people and participate in meetings? So it's like you're there, like all of us have had to adapt to do working virtually. So we've really expanded to include those kinds of opportunities. So I offer that as something to think about. And then we have some students that are kind of doing a hybrid approach so that this school is on lockdown and not working. We have two students here, one on the left in a red sweatshirt and a white mask, and one on the right with a black sweatshirt and a white mask, who are both sitting at a table, a counter, and have products with paints and glues and paintbrushes that they are working on particular items of wood. This is a business that actually has people, provides the opportunity for people to be able to help them create their products. And that's what these students are doing. And so what we did was, they're not at school, which is over an hour away from where they live and where this is, but they're not at the business either. So they are at a remote site working together, doing this business with virtual supports and virtual business, and the school is located away. So we have just any creative combination that we can make happen so students can take advantage of these work experiences we're finding and these tremendous opportunities. And so we're learning as well as we go. So these are some of the examples of the jobs that we found, and it just grows every day. Employers have the business. And so think about these skill sets that students are learning. Of a photo editing assistant, an advertising assistant, social media event share. These are incredible experiences, and it just goes on and on every day. There's more added to it. I want to show you a video. This is an actual student who worked remotely and what they felt their experience was.
My name is Nivea. I am a member of the 2021 graduation class from Virginia High School. Now that I have graduated, I want to be an artist for my interest because for the last few months, I have been making social media posts and other crafts as part of the work-based learning experiment. What I like most about my work-based learning experience was learning graphic design and Canva and working with my supervisor, Jeff. What I am most excited about for the summer work program is being able to work more hours and earning money for the work I do.
So one of the things that is really important not to forget is to get that feedback from the student of what they like. I love this little checklist because it lists out the workplace, the people, the job duties, and whether this is a job somebody would like to work at. But it also has the smiley faces to help someone complete whether they like it, it's okay, or they don't like. We also get an evaluation from the supervisor and share that feedback with the student. And we compile all of this and into work-based learning, what we call work-based learning resumes. And I have to tell you, the vocational rehabilitation counselor, the student, the teacher, and the family have loved these, and they have been such an incredible part of the student's portfolio. So here's an example. It has the business and the task the person does, how many hours they have completed at that point, what their strengths are. Look at this, things like happy to be at work, willing to try new tasks, follows rules, and then what works for you, being shown how to do a task and then doing it, you know, friendly coworkers. So you're looking at the types of environments, the types of tasks that are such rich information about that person in that particular environment. What the observations were, for example, you're a capable worker with many abilities for you to be successful for competitive employment. Think about how this influences other people and those around with their expectations when they see all of these attributes that this person has demonstrated in the real work experience. And at the bottom here in the right corner, we always include a quote from the employer's evaluation. For example, here, it was a pleasure to have blank as a greeter at the zoo. Here's another one of here's a workplace and that task. Look at the strengths, an eye for detail, polite, willing to help customers. And then what works for you? Getting positive feedback, working independently or in a small group. Think about how you could find a job match for this person as an adult provider if you had all of these informations from the different work experiences. And then this quote from the employer, so-and-so's work has been an asset here at Bookman's. Blank has a positive attitude and is eager to learn. And the last one, here's another one, the same kind of format. And another strength that they work well with a team. They have a good work ethic. things that, are important that help them work, having someone designated to go to for help, jobs that involve helping others. So you have a nice picture in that particular environment for that student. And the employer here says, we would love to hire blank. So these have been really helpful, not only for engaging the adult services, for the school and the family to see what this youth can do, but for that student to be able to be in the driver's seat to share these things with other employers, with their school, at their IEP meeting, or in any environment where they want somebody to know about the specifics of the work that they've done. So now I am going to turn it over to Richard Parent-Johnson, who is going to share with you about some other ways that we've had youth participate in their employment program. Richard?
Hi, my name is Richard Parent-Johnson, the other Parent-Johnson, and I'm here to talk with you today about some of the ways in which things that Wendy's been talking about that we have we've tried to operationalize some of these activities, but for what reason? And in particular, what reason are we looking to keep finding ways to operationalize, to put into practice these things that we're looking to do with youth? So I'm going to remind you that the title of this presentation is Giving Youth Space to Lead. That's something that we aspire to in all the work that we're doing. I'm a consultant with the Center for Disabilities here in Arizona. And in particular, I'm a consultant on a project I'm going to speak more briefly about called Transition Ahead Roundtable. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. But in the roundtable, as well as other activities that you've heard Wendy talk about, we're really trying to give youth the space and the voice they can use to lead their own life, to participate actively in where they're headed, whether they're still in school or transitioning from high school into employment or any other kinds of transition. It's important for us that we help youth understand what and how they can share what it is they want, what their interests are, what their directions are, what their goals are. So we really work in all of the projects that Wendy's doing with these young emerging adults. We work on several things here. I'll go, briefly through them and try and give you some practical examples of what I'm talking about. Initially, the overall sense is we want to help the young person develop a much more concrete sense of themselves. Who are they? This conversation today opened with one of the themes that comes up routinely for the last 25 years, and that's helping youth have developed self-determination skills. Well, in my own experience, starting back at the University of Kansas in another project, we started with an entire self-determination skill curriculum that lasted a semester. At the end of the first semester in 6 different high schools in the Wichita public school system, we learned one thing in particular. It was really challenging for the teachers and especially the young adults to learn how to be self-determined if they didn't believe in their own efficacy, if they did not believe themselves as capable beings. So it's important to deal with that side of self-efficacy first before you move into self-determination skills and practices. So they need to develop a concrete sense of themselves as a capable person. Lots of times they truly dig inside, as we discovered and worked on for the next several years, didn't. And so it was important for us to find ways to help them become more self-efficacious, if I can use that word. How do you do that? Well, you you provide the tools that they need. And some of the things that you've seen Wendy point out today are examples of great tools. The student employer feedback tool, the little grid there that she showed just a moment ago. We try and employ that kind of thinking and that kind of tool, get the kids to use those things, not just in giving feedback, but if they go to a community college or they go to some job sites, they can begin to create a concretely, specifically articulate, express, and begin to understand, what did I like about this particular situation, this particular school, the next school, this work site, the next work site? What are the pros and what are the cons? What do I like and what don't I like, and why? So it's, even in the most basic terms, when they begin to do those kinds of things, when we're asking them to do those kinds of things, that helps them understand who they are, what they like, and then eventually we're going to ask them to articulate that, not just to themselves, to internalize that to themselves, but to share that with other people. So we need to help them learn how to make choices and set goals. If there's anything I've learned in the last 20 years in this field of helping youth transition into adulthood, is that they really need to learn concretely specific strategies for making choices. And that tool I just described helps that. And then setting goals. Goal setting is a pretty vague term. And often teachers assume that the kids know it, or then they do teach some goal setting. Parents assume that the kids are learning goal setting in schools. Everybody assumes that the kid it's really sinking in. And that's not often the case. Often they still struggle in setting goals. And that's been true year after year, scores of students in scores of situations. They also need to learn to use their own voice. They need, once they begin to develop this concrete sense of self, begin to see that they can rationally, systematically make some choices and set some goals and take some actions because of the opportunities we've given them to do that, to begin to learn about those things and to understand that, to articulate to themselves and others. They need to say it out loud. They need to do things like, and I know this is textbook IEP, they need to lead their own IEP. They need to engage friends and family in saying more and more, with more and more, hopefully growing confidence, who they are and what they want. And they need opportunities, systematic opportunities to practice these activities, practice using these kinds of tools, practice using their own voice, those opportunities, and challenge to do that. They really need to do this at home and at school. And it'd be nice if home and school also shared a lot more information about these kinds of activities. And as a quick side note, sometimes I've really been compelled and felt good about parents who I've worked with these young adults. They say, you know, I'm not sure how to teach. I'd like to teach goal setting and choice making at home. I don't know how to do that. So someday, in the hopefully not too distant future, we're going to try and provide opportunities for parents of these young people to have some concrete strategies and templates for using to help that they can use at home, so that they know how to do that. Parents really want to do the right thing when they understand what their child needs. So let's move. So here's, before I get into that, this vision board, I want to describe an activity that I've been a part of, both for 3 or 4 years at the University of South Dakota in Sioux Falls, as well as a new model of the same kind of idea here in Arizona at the U of A and the USAID here. And that is something that we call the Transition Ahead Roundtable. It is a day-long activity with one parent, excuse me, one parent and one kid. They both commit to spending this time together, sometimes doing activities together, sometimes doing them independently, but they weave their way in and out of a whole set of activities throughout the day. The parent is doing some learning about their kid and about the resources available to them outside the school and in outside agencies and organizations. They're also learning a lot about their young adult, because at the end of the day, we bring everyone, and this is literally, it's a day-long activity. It starts about 9 o'clock in the morning. With a few breaks we end about between 3:15 and 3:30. It's a big commitment for a team. It's a big commitment for parents and young adults themselves, but it's just proven to be incredibly powerful and successful in what we're trying to do. And it's transition ahead, help them. These are young adults, emerging adults, moving from high school age. We're also working on a middle school variation on this set of themes as we speak, or as I speak. We're bringing these people together, and they spend time together working on a variety of subjects, the young adult and his family, usually the mother, but sometimes an older sibling and mom, and sometimes mom and dad, but always at least one parent or guardian, if that's the case in some situations. We bring them together to the Transition Ahead Roundtable. And during the day, we discuss explicitly and have a set of questions we ask that address healthcare transition. We talk to both parent and young person independently about goals, concerns, needs that they have. We do wellness interviews for both family and young person, separate from one another, trying to get a grasp from both perspectives on what is important and valuable to learn and to do and to explore, especially for the young adult. It's called a roundtable because we genuinely, and we start out by saying this with the young person themselves, you are at the table with us. We're not talking at you. We're not doing anything except engaging you, and we're going to require and ask and hope that you will engage with us, because we want to learn with you as you go along, and we're going to take notes, and we're going to try and understand, and we're going to present. At the end of the day, this young person, at the end of the day, by themselves, they get some coaching along the way. They will make a presentation that I'll show you. This is one of the products that they don't create this vision board. Our staff does as we listen to the experience of this kid through the day, each individual young person through the day. We create a vision board for them that we give this to them at the end of the day. Because it's a great reminder of many of the things that they've said, because we're trying to help them not just think about a vision, but to vision a vision, vision some goals, have the sort of in a universal design moment, give them something other to look at and to relate to other than a statement of words. So this is really a great document. So we go through the day doing all these different activities, sometimes together and sometimes independent, parent and young adult. And at the end of the day, we spend time, one of our staff spends time with that individual in a conversation, asking them to complete their own planner. And believe me, the first part of the day, when we meet them at 9 o'clock, for them to say what my goals are, often they will say, I don't have a goal. What's my what kind of work would I like to do? I don't know. Now, sure, they're 16 and 17 years old, but that's the beginning of the day. They'll say, I don't know. If they have one goal generically in life, they'll name that usually. But employment, maybe they've got some vague truly vague idea. This is the product that shows up at the end of the day. This is what they have, because they've been doing a lot of talking during the day. We do a lot of listening and they do a lot of talking. This planner is an actual planner from one of the students who went from having one goal, vague as it was, and really no employability interest in particular. And this is the end. And they would put this up in front of them on the screen if we're doing it virtually, just like we are today. And that young person leads the articulation of this particular planner. So they say what's here. They talk about their strengths. And you've seen in the other tools that Wendy has introduced, we're really trying to say, boy, you have these strengths, and they get that relative to like the work-based learning resume, which is a great tool. I mean, just a great tool. We give them other tools that are too detailed for me to go into during the day in this transition head roundtable conversation we have with them. But this is the finale. Now, the impact is not just on the kid. The kid often ends this 5-minute, quick read sometimes document with a clear and obvious sense of elation about, wow, I just led a meeting. We say you're going to lead this meeting, and they're pleased, and they demonstrate that in all kinds of ways. But they'll go through, now here's what they think what they say their strengths are. I have attention to detail. I am funny. I'm pretty smart. I can be independent and a fast learner. My interests, those usually appear pretty early in the day, but the strengths begin to, crystallize themselves. They begin to see themselves as capable because they have strengths. Their interests, often those emerge pretty quickly, but sometimes, especially during the interest inventory that we do them, which is an online inventory called My Next Move, is very valuable. They add things, my interest, baking, playing instruments, cleaning. Oh my gosh, most parents would want a kid who's interested in cleaning. So crafting, music, okay, all those. Now the goals. And they list goals. I want to have a job. I want to learn. I want to drive a car, which means I'm probably going to need a driver's license, which means I got to pass the test. I got to do a lot of other things. But I want to watch over kids and be around kids more often. Try to have more friends. Many, if not most, of these young adults, their entire social world will come to an end, not literally, but figuratively, when they leave school, when they leave high school. So having more friends is going to be critical. We don't articulate that at the moment with them, but they really say, I want more friends. I need to be more honest. This is a pretty impressive one. I want to be more honest with my friends and see how they feel. I want to travel more. I want to have a BF. I had to figure out what that was. The last thing, and this puts a little heat on them, is to say their supports. We say, look, you need to learn how to express yourself enough to say what you need to do, whether it's pass the test, get a driver's license, meet new friends, make new friends. You need to tell your team here. You need to tell your parents, your teachers, this particular team that you're working with all day long. What do you need to get the job? You need to ask us and then tell us what you need. So help me out. The support's here. Help me out when I need it. Search online. I need some help searching online for jobs. Help me figure out a plan when I want to travel. Get signed up for driving classes. Cook more. And how you could really help me, which is a catch-22 here, is trust me on all my decisions. Now we we all listen. The whole team is online. We listen to this. We validate so much because it's such an easy thing to do. And then we'll say, boy, you know, you earn trust as an example to that. You have to earn these things. Here's another example. Strengths, I'm creative, I'm compassionate. They've used these words or heard these words sometimes during the day, but we sort of, they somehow they stick. It's fascinating, the before and after. Interest, dinosaurs. Dinosaurs seem to be a big draw for young adults in this age. Movies, cartoons, I'm interested in nature. Yeah, goals. Again, I want more friends. I really like to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend if it's a young person, a dear friend. I really want to get a good job. I want to learn about more jobs. I want to get married in the future. Now, when these young adults do this, when they express this, it's not uncommon to hear the parent's jaw hit the ground. Not because of the specifics, some of them, that'll probably be a little eye-opening, but the fact that this young person is articulating all of this in ways that much of it they've never heard before. Some of it for sure. And some of it they knew already, but they've not seen their kid in action. And that's an incredibly invaluable experience. One of the best things that we finally have found a way to bring people into here is this presentation also isn't just made to parent and the team, the roundtable team, but we're having teachers of where we're capable and there is a teacher involved, especially a SPED teacher, someone in charge of these young persons IEPs. They have listened in to this and the transfer, and they have over many times they have said, wow, there's more to this kid than even though I work with them every day, there's more to this than I ever expected. So we will talk more in the second session, the second webinar we're going to do later about this building self-efficacy, building a capacity to see themselves as capable people. How do we do that as the adults in the room? How do we do that together so we can, as professionals, support each other, helping these kids make this kind of growth in this kind of transition? Really, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. I retired some time ago, but I keep getting pulled into this particular activity because it's such a valuable experience.
So thank you, Richard. And I think, one of the things that we found really helpful are these valuable, the lessons learned from these experiences with the roundtable and these tools we're applying in other ways. So even if you don't have the roundtable, the application of this for students to be able to compile information about themselves based on all these experiences and to share with their team is just extremely invaluable for them moving forward. In closing, I just want to make reference to our Sonoran Center for Excellence in Disabilities, our whole team, but in particular our employment team, and Kelsey Montano, who really helped contribute many of the examples because of the great work that she and the other members are involved with. And our contact information is here, as well as the copy of the book. That many of the tools and things that we mentioned are in here and more content. And then if you have an interest in the additional materials or tools that we talked about, our contact information is there. So thank you very much.